Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most incredible business transformation stories in tech history. What if I told you that your Netflix binge sessions, your Uber rides, and even NASA space missions all depend on infrastructure that started as an internal tool for selling books online? That's right, we're talking about Amazon Web Services, or AWS. By the end of this video, you'll understand how Amazon accidentally created a $80 billion business that powers nearly 1/3 of the entire internet. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and let's get started. We're exploring the fascinating journey of Amazon Web Services, from solving Amazon's internal e-commerce problems to becoming the backbone of the modern digital economy. This is a story of innovation, timing, and how sometimes the best business opportunities come from solving your own problems first. So what exactly is AWS? Amazon Web Services is Amazon's comprehensive cloud computing platform that officially launched in 2006. But here's what makes it fascinating. AWS provides infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service all under one umbrella. The mission was simple: provide reliable, scalable, and cost-effective cloud computing services. Today, AWS commands a massive 33% of the global cloud market share. To put that in perspective, AWS alone generates more revenue than many Fortune 100 companies. But here's the kicker: AWS didn't start as a separate business. It evolved directly from Amazon's internal infrastructure needs. Today, it powers everything from your favorite streaming shows on Netflix to NASA's most critical space missions. Let's rewind to the late 1990s and early 2000s. Amazon.com was experiencing explosive growth, but they faced a massive problem that would accidentally lead to one of the biggest business breakthroughs in history. Picture this: Amazon's website would crash every Black Friday and Christmas because traditional hosting simply couldn't handle the traffic spikes. They were spending millions on servers that sat idle most of the year, just to handle peak shopping seasons. Even worse, Amazon's internal teams were constantly rebuilding the same infrastructure components over and over again. It was expensive, time-consuming, and incredibly frustrating. But instead of just accepting this as the cost of doing business, Amazon made a crucial decision. They invested heavily in building robust, scalable internal infrastructure. They created modular API-driven services for their own use and developed incredible expertise in distributed systems and fault tolerance. Little did they know, they were accidentally solving problems that every growing tech company in the world was facing. Here's where the story gets really interesting. In 2002, Amazon's internal infrastructure had become incredibly sophisticated. Then in 2003, two Amazon engineers named Chris Pinkham and Benjamin Black published an internal paper with a game-changing suggestion. Why don't we sell our infrastructure as a service? This was the eureka moment. Amazon realized that other companies were facing the exact same infrastructure challenges they had already solved at massive scale. By 2004, development of SQS, the Simple Queue service, had begun. The brilliant insight was this: Amazon had already invested hundreds of millions of dollars solving these problems for themselves. Instead of keeping this competitive advantage internal, why not turn it into a new business line? This decision would completely reshape the technology industry. March 14, 2006. This date should be remembered as one of the most important days in internet history. AWS officially launched with 3 foundational services that would change everything. First was Amazon S3 Simple Storage Service. This offered unlimited online storage where you only pay for what you use, with an incredible 99.999999999% durability guarantee. That's 11 nines of durability, meaning you could store 10 million files and expect to lose at most 1 file every 10,000 years. Second was Amazon SQS Simple Queue Service, providing reliable message queuing for distributed applications. And third was Amazon EC2 Elastic Compute Cloud, launched in beta. This was the revolutionary virtual servers in the cloud that you could scale up or down instantly with a completely new pricing model. These 3 services formed the holy trinity of modern cloud computing: storage, messaging, and compute power. Everything else would build on this foundation. The next few years were absolutely crucial for AWS. In 2007, EC2 exited beta and became generally available. By 2008, they launched Elastic Block Store, and in 2009, Virtual Private Cloud and CloudFront CDN joined the family. By the end of 2009, AWS had reached a $500 million annual revenue run rate. But the real validation came from the companies that bet their entire businesses on AWS. Dropbox built their entire file storage service on S3. Netflix began their massive migration to AWS, which would later enable them to stream to 200 million subscribers worldwide. Airbnb used AWS to scale globally almost overnight. And here's a crazy stat: when Facebook acquired Instagram for $1 billion, Instagram was running their entire service with just 13 employees on AWS infrastructure. AWS didn't just provide infrastructure, it democratized access to enterprise-grade technology and enabled the startup boom of the late 2000s. Between 2009 and 2012, AWS introduced features that would make cloud computing truly elastic and revolutionary. The game changers were auto-scaling, elastic load balancing, and CloudWatch monitoring. Here's why this was so revolutionary. Before this, if your website went viral or had a traffic spike, you either crashed or had to manually spin up more servers. With auto-scaling, your infrastructure could automatically adjust capacity based on demand. Elastic load balancing distributed traffic across multiple instances. CloudWatch let you monitor everything in real time, This meant companies could handle massive traffic spikes without any manual intervention. Your costs automatically adjusted to your actual usage. You no longer needed to buy expensive servers and let them sit idle just in case. This enabled companies like Uber to scale to millions of users and WhatsApp to handle billions of messages with tiny engineering teams. It literally made the fail fast, scale fast startup culture possible. Without these features, most of the apps on your phone today simply couldn't exist. Between 2012 and 2016, AWS transformed from an infrastructure provider into a comprehensive platform. They added major service categories that changed the game entirely. Databases came with RDS, DynamoDB, and Redshift. Analytics arrived with EMR and Kinesis. Mobile development got Cognito, SNS, and SES. Developer tools included Code Commit, Code Deploy, and Code Pipeline. Security was enhanced with Advanced IAM, CloudTrail, and Config. But the biggest game changer was AWS Lambda, launched in 2014. This introduced serverless computing. You could run code without managing any servers at all. Just upload your function, and AWS would handle everything else. This strategic shift was crucial. AWS moved from being a cost-saving tool to becoming an innovation enabler. Suddenly, developers didn't need IT departments to get started. They could experiment, build, and deploy applications using enterprise-grade tools with just a credit card. Between 2016 and 2020, AWS made another strategic leap that positioned them perfectly for the AI revolution. They launched a comprehensive suite of AI and machine learning services that democratized artificial intelligence. Amazon SageMaker became the go-to platform for machine learning. Rekognition provided image and video analysis. Lex powered conversational AI. It's actually the same technology behind Alexa. Polly converted text to speech, and Comprehend handled natural language processing. This had massive impact across industries. Healthcare used AWS for medical image analysis. Retail built personalized recommendation engines. Manufacturing implemented predictive maintenance. Finance developed sophisticated fraud detection systems. AWS became the go-to platform for AI startups and accelerated enterprise AI adoption. When everyone talks about the democratization of AI, AWS services are a huge part of that story. Let's talk about where AWS stands today. And these numbers are absolutely mind-blowing. AWS controls 33% of the global cloud market. They generate over $80 billion in annual revenue. That's more than the entire GDP of many countries. They offer more than 200 distinct services and operate 99 availability zones across 31 regions worldwide. They serve millions of active customers. Their customer list reads like a who's who of the digital economy. Netflix runs their entire streaming infrastructure on AWS. Every show you binge watch is delivered through AWS. NASA depends on AWS for space missions and research. Capital One completed their entire digital transformation on AWS. GE uses AWS for industrial IoT and analytics. AWS is innovating in cutting-edge areas like quantum computing with Breakit, satellite internet with Ground Station, and edge computing with Wavelength. They're not just maintaining their lead, they're expanding into entirely new frontiers. So how did AWS win the cloud war? There are 5 key factors that created their dominance. First mover advantage. AWS had a 7+ year head start over major competitors like Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud. They built developer mindshare early when it really mattered. Second, customer-obsessed culture. AWS rapidly develops features based on customer feedback and has implemented over 100 price reductions since launch. They literally make their services cheaper over time. Third, scale economics. Their massive scale drives down costs, and they reinvest those savings into new services and regions, creating a virtuous cycle. Fourth, incredible innovation pace. AWS releases thousands of new features annually with a culture of experimentation and what Amazon calls day one mentality, always acting like a startup. Fifth, extensive partner ecosystem. They've built a massive partner network and marketplace with thousands of solutions, making AWS the center of the cloud universe. The impact of AWS on the world cannot be overstated. Let me break this down by who it affected. For startups, AWS eliminated the need for massive upfront infrastructure investment. Companies could scale globally and iterate quickly without massive capital requirements. The fail fast, iterate quickly culture became possible because spinning up and shutting down infrastructure became trivial. For enterprises, AWS accelerated digital transformation. Companies could focus on innovation instead of maintaining infrastructure. This enabled remote work capabilities and digital resilience, which became crucial during COVID-19. For developers, AWS democratized access to sophisticated tools. Developers could focus on application logic instead of infrastructure management, and it created entirely new career paths and opportunities. The societal impact is enormous. AWS enabled the entire app economy: Instagram, WhatsApp, TikTok, and countless others. It supported remote work during the pandemic and accelerated AI and machine learning adoption across every industry. Without AWS, the digital world we live in today simply wouldn't exist. So what's next for AWS? They're pushing into fascinating emerging technologies. Quantum computing is advancing with AWS Braket for quantum research. Edge computing is bringing AWS capabilities to the network edge for real-time applications. They've made a commitment to be carbon neutral by 2040 with massive investments in renewable energy. Space technology includes satellite ground stations and even computing in space. The market is evolving with multi-cloud strategies becoming common and industry-specific solutions gaining importance. Edge computing for IoT and serverless technologies continue expanding. But AWS faces real challenges ahead. Competition from Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud is intensifying. Regulatory scrutiny and data sovereignty concerns are growing. Environmental responsibility is becoming a business imperative, not just a nice-to-have. Let's wrap up with the key takeaways from this incredible story. AWS didn't invent cloud computing, but they perfected it. What started as a way to monetize Amazon's infrastructure investment accidentally created the foundation for the modern digital economy. AWS continues to drive innovation in enterprise technology and shows no signs of slowing down. The broader impact is staggering. AWS enabled the startup boom of the 2010s, made enterprise digital transformation possible, created the foundation for AI democratization, and supported global resilience during the pandemic. The final lesson? Sometimes the best business opportunities come from solving your own problems first, then realizing others have the same challenges. And that's the incredible story of how Amazon Web Services went from an internal tool for selling books to powering 1/3 of the internet. AWS proves that innovation often comes from unexpected places and that sometimes the biggest business opportunities are hiding in plain sight. What do you think was the most game-changing AWS service? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into tech history, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more stories about the companies and technologies that shape our world. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.